Philip, we're hearing a lot about a British version of the Magnitsky Act, which is the American measure. How would this work in practice?
Well, the interesting line for me from Theresa May's statement was that one about freezing Russian state assets, and I think that's the one that's got the city spooked. So that is any entity that's owned directly by the Russian state is now vulnerable. And within an hour of that statement, we had clients calling us up saying, I'm structuring a deal with a Russian company owned by the state. Am I exposed?
Right, so I mean, potentially anyone doing business with those companies could face punishments as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It could be restrictions on capital raising or potentially the actual freezing of assets. And that's a very big, potentially difficult legal and technical thing to do. But the UK government may press ahead with that.
And potentially hits the revenues of all that advisory community in London, accountants, lawyers, banks, PR firms.
Absolutely. The service sector for Russians in London is huge. You know, every major law firm now has a VIP Russian desk. There's a lot of money flowing into London. That's where Russians come to raise capital and list their stocks.
So if Russian assets are frozen, potentially could that money be diverted to other financial centres?
Well, the Russians have long claimed that they can go to the Far East, they could go to Hong Kong for IPOs, they could get money from China. That's true to a certain extent. Chinese money comes with strings. The Chinese have pressured Russia. One very good example is the Power of Siberia pipeline. It took 10 years to negotiate, and the Chinese really got a very good bargain, and the Russians came off very badly on that one.
Some people are saying, though, we haven't seen any specific measures against Putin-related individuals or entities.
No. She's kept that in the back pocket. I mean, she started with the easy stuff, the diplomats. You hoover up all the agents you want to expel. The royal family aren't going to the World Cup. I think in the next couple of weeks it's going to be quite interesting to watch what will come next. Concrete measures that really target individuals close to the regime.
What's this going to mean for the London property market, those prime properties that have been snapped up by oligarchs over the last 15 years?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could argue that perhaps as, you know, it's not going to target every Russian. London is still seen as a refuge. People like to come here to educate their children, to keep their assets safe. It's a very liquid market. It's a bit like gold holding London property. And it's just, not just Russian, so it's Kazakhs, it's many different countries come to store their wealth here.
Now, what about the position of BP? Because BP, of course, owns 20% of Rosneft, Russia's biggest company. It gets a third of its revenues from there these days. BP's squarely in the sights if there's any Russian retaliation.
Well, quite, yeah. BP and Shell both. So both companies have had torrid times in Russia. BP with TNK in the mid-2000s. Shell lost Sakhalin-1 to Gazprom. They're stuck there. It's very profitable, but they are vulnerable.
So what would you be advising BP right now?
I think sit it out, keep quiet, make as little comment as possible, and hope that commercial diplomacy, that business between the UK and Russia continues unabated despite the deteriorating political situation.
Because lest we forget, I mean, London is still a prime place for Russian companies to list here. We've had EM Plus, of course, one of the big commodities producers there.
You have, but you had some have delisted as well. So I think the Norilsk, I mean, Polyus has relisted again. Some have left. I mean, we had the Kazakh company ENRC. So there's been a mixed bag on that front. But I think Russians have always enjoyed coming to London for cultural reasons, for financial reasons, because of the quality of the service sector here. And I think it'll be a big loss for them.
You've obviously been involved with Russia for most of your business career, going back a quarter of a century here. Is there a danger that we paint... We're none of us any younger. Is there a danger that we're painting the Russians into a corner with some of this stuff?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's very... I think there's a danger here that you put them in the corner, there's no dialogue, there's no channel of communication. And bear in mind, we have an election on Sunday. Turnover was likely to be lackluster, but now nothing unites Russians around their leader like pressure from the West. I think if you criticise Russia, they'll unite around their leader, and Putin's popularity, I guarantee, will spike following what's happened recently. So
sanctions, in some ways, could be counterproductive. But what do we do then? Smother them with kindness?
Very difficult. You know, do sanctions work? I would argue that the oil price collapse hurt Russia more than sanctions did. You know, sanctions united the country. It arguably helped their agricultural sector as well. So it's not a silver bullet.